There's been no audio contact for several weeks. Something's gone badly wrong with Round the Archives.
Next Saturday, a new episode begins when Toby and Lisa meet the Doctor Who fans of Salisbury.
Now we've got to find out who's editing that podcast. Biff, bash, bang, ooh, shoot, shoot, bang, oof, ooh, ee, ah, ooh, me face, ooh, ah, boom, oof, poof, pa, bing, ooh, marmite, ee, ooh, ooh. Someone is determined to steal Troby's digital recorder. Helicopter, 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 vroom, 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 shoot, bang, ooh. The people behind this are trying to interview John Chalice.
Hello.
I don't know who's contributed to episode 16, but they certainly are human.
What happened to the British fans from Salisbury? A new Round the Archives adventure starts next week. Round the Archives in the episode 16.
Doctor Who. A new adventure starts for the intrepid Doctor when he comes up against the invisible enemy. Contact has been made. Doctor Who. Tonight at 6:15.
Hello.
Hello.
Welcome to episode 16.
Yes, indeed.
Of Round the Archives.
Yes.
I'm Andrew.
I'm Lisa.
That's enough.
That's it. That's all that's here.
Nobody else is
Apart
here.
from cats, and they're all upstairs.
Yes. Welcome to our... I guess it's our special for Doctor Who,
Doctor
isn't
Who,
it?
yes, it's the anniversary special.
That's the thing. So we're concentrating this time round on John Pertwee
and Tom
Baker. We've got lots of material from Nick Goodman and Paul Chandler, for which we are very grateful.
Yes, thank you, boys.
Which was recorded on location in Salisbury when they couldn't come down because of the storm.
Because of the storm.
The other week.
Yes.
Couple of corrections or comments about the previous episode. Meet the Wife was actually a BBC programme.
Yes.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
Thanks again to the enigmatic Higgins for that.
Yes.
And he's also reminded us that the Alice in Wonderland thing that Deborah Watling was in was actually a Wednesday play from 1965 written by Dennis Potter.
About Alice Liddell.
Harris? He was in Kindar.
Yes. Who was the inspiration for Alice.
But interestingly, the Mad Hatter was played by John Bailey.
Who would go on to play her father.
Indeed, in Evil of the Daleks.
Yes.
Also, on Debbie's pieces, she was in actually Doctor in Charge in 1972 as Emma Livingston in 2 episodes, That's My Uncle and The Taming of the Wolf.
Okay.
And we haven't got round to watching those yet. We have got all the Doctor series, but we just haven't.
We just haven't quite got that far yet.
What else have we been up to? Giving John Chalice wine.
Yeah, and a chocolate penguin.
And a chocolate penguin
Neither of
night.
which made it to the end of the night.
Yes.
Which is quite amazing considering we gave them at 10 o'clock.
Yes.
Last night.
John Chalice is a guts, and that is official.
I'm not sure you should say that, really.
I've said it now, and I don't care because he is. Hello, John. Right, anyway, let's kick off then with a piece mostly by Paul.
Yes,
but with help from Nick Goodman and a little bit of Ali Goodman, Nick's wife, in the background, who can be heard.
Yes.
So Invasion of the Dinosaurs was what Paul wanted to
talk
do
about,
for his
yes.
John Pertwee thing.
Mm-hmm.
Just to point out, it was recorded before the sad deaths of Paddy Russell and Dudley Simpson
Yes.
were announced.
So there might be mentions.
We
in there.
will do a little piece on both of them after the article.
Yes.
But Paul's split it into 6 episodes.
He
then.
has. Yes.
Basically, they watched one episode and recorded,
the
and
piece, yeah.
then watched the next episode and recorded their thoughts on that,
Yeah.
which was an interesting
Yeah. It's probably a good way to do it.
of doing it.
Wait, that way you don't forget.
No.
Well, apart from dinosaur names.
Yes. And didn't you send Paul a book on dinosaurs
I
recently?
may have done, yes.
You may have done.
Yes. Fortunately, he'll hear this after he gets the parcel.
Yes, that's all right.
Yes.
But then let's travel over to Salisbury and
Yeah. And
encounter
see
some
what they've got to
dinosaurs.
say, yes.
Yes. See you soon then.
Bye-bye.
Well, here I am with Nick and Ali. We've just watched episode 1 of Invasion of the Dinosaurs, or Invasion, as is on screen title.
Although apparently Radio Times actually blew the gaff.
Oh, did they?
And put it in Invasion of the Dinosaurs, and Malcolm Hogg was none too pleased.
Seeing as they went to the trouble of filming it with that title,
Yeah.
it's a bit like how they stuck the Dalek monster on the front cover of the Radio Times in the more recent.
Oh dear, yes. Or the Sontaran experiment. You know, the title kind of gives the cliffhanger away.
Yeah. Because, of course, episode 1 we were used to seeing only in black and white for years. Because
bootleg copies for ages in black and white. Very moody black and white, I must admit. It was a good episode to have in black and white.
The DVD allows us to see it in colour now. So
thanks to an ingenious invention called chroma-dots, which takes the minutest bit of colour and actually expands it. And the Pertwee story Mind of Evil was entirely resurrected with that technique.
Some good moments of humour and scary bits in episode 1. That we were particularly noting, as far as humour is concerned, the bit where the Doctor and Sarah are having their photos taken when they've been arrested.
Telling everyone the plot.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's a spoiler. I think this is spoiler alert.
It's nice to see Pertwee actually smiling and putting some humour in, because he hadn't had an easy time of it. Katie Manning had left, and he was very close to Katie Manning, and also
Roger,
more significantly, Roger Delgado had just been killed. I think he was killed shortly after they recorded Time Warrior. So this is his first story back after the summer holidays, as it were. And I think at this point, if I remember Liz Sladen saying in an interview, he'd already decided that he was going to go. And it's funny to think of Tom Baker as just a season away. But yes, a lovely episode. It's probably my second favourite Malcolm Hogg story. My first being Silurians. But yeah, it's full of intrigue and
the scariness of saying I love some of the bits with the pterodactyl, even though it does look tacky in places. It's at other points it looks blooming scary.
Its beak is shoved through
the window.
That's very, very.
And also some of the shots where it's up close to Sarah's face, and I can imagine that if that was done on film as part of a proper horror film,
that's sort of a behind the scenes moment, really. But no, there's already a nice rapport between him and Liz Sladen.
One thing I was going to say is, as well as the humour of the photo, Pertwee gets to do a bit of an accent.
Voice,
yeah.
Oh, you don't see.
That's not quite the way he did it.
The actor's voice is
the other thing about this episode, it appeals to you've got Brigadier and Benton and Yates all together, and also the I had another brain thing. What else? And it appeals to me. It always annoys me, but it's a good story where somebody's being framed for something. Well, they're not being framed, but where the truth and the characters being sort of frustrating.
Yeah. And also, I mean, that's manyfold more in Malcolm Hogg's previous story, Frontier in Space, where even the most basic things they won't believe, and you just want to grab General Williams and throw him out of a 5th floor window, really, because he's such an arse.
Well, it draws the viewer in because, everyone has experience with authority figures where, they've got it wrong or they're not understanding or they're not listening. So it kind of it brings you in.
Also, Malcolm Holt was a dedicated Marxist, so any kind of authority, authoritarian authority, should I say, he all his stories are peppered with that kind of characterisation, which is something we battle with today. But no, I do love Invasion of the Dinosaurs. I must admit, it's an underrated little gem. The monster, I've never been one to.
Well, we've not seen the best of we've not the dinosaur that appears isn't one of the best in this story, but there are better dinosaur models to come.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be difficult, but there are.
You wouldn't read out paper mache.
Full marks to Paddy Russell for the all the empty London stuff. Which is great. I mean, and again with it reminds me a little bit of the Survivors episode Lights of London, where they managed.
I was getting Survivors vibes, especially when they first arrive and they don't know what's going on.
And of course, Survivors is a whole year away at this point.
Well,
but,
we should get on to. We should probably move on to episode
2. Which is actually cool. In all forms, it's called Invasion of the Dinosaurs episode 2.
I would say also this season has my favourite title sequence because I like the Pertwee time tunnels title sequence more than
Slit
even
Scan, as it's called.
Yeah, more than the one.
It's nice because I'm not sure I prefer it, but it's a very, very striking effect, and I can see why it stayed on for so long with Baker.
I think
it's very well done.
I think also anything that this is the one season that it is, well, other than season 7, which has slightly different versions of the title sequence, but this is the one season that is remarkably different in a title sequence, and I'm a sucker for changing in titles. And
yes. I mean, you yourself has instigated many changes of title sequences.
When I've done my own projects.
But no, it's gorgeous, and lovely to see it in colour as well. I'm glad actually that on the DVD you've got the option.
Yeah, you got the option
watch
of both
in its original film colour, black and white, and colourised colour. Because although it's colorised and it's quite effective, it's not 100%. It's still still looking a bit washed out.
Not quite right. So,
but the chroma dots did what they could.
Yeah. So we shall go on to episode 2, and we will see it in the only way that it's ever
breathing colour
in the proper official colour.
Yes.
Well, we've just seen episode 2. And there are some good dinosaur models in episode 2. It's a bit unfair how much bad press Invasion of the Dinosaurs gets for its Tyrannosaurus Rex, when the Brontosaurus and the what's the other one? Is it Diplodocus?
I don't know.
They're two different ones, aren't there? There's the one with the spiny back.
Triceratops in the last episode.
Yeah, there's anyway. The two other dinosaurs that appear in that episode are really well animated and look completely different.
It's poor old T-Rex.
Yeah, Mark Bolan gets bad press, but
there we go. But no, again, we're back to the full colour tapes, so that's quite nice.
Yeah,
nice build up of intrigue. I've always liked the double act of Butler and Professor Whittaker. You've got two splendid actors in Peter Miles and Martin Jarvis, of course, went on to be a household name.
And you've got John Pertwee putting about 100 sugars in his tea.
Yes.
and
Mike Hicks, nice continuity to Green Death.
Yes, yeah. They reveal his sort of involvement quite early on. They don't.
They don't hold it back. It's nice. You've definitely got a different kind of companion with than Katie Manning, because with Katie Manning she would hang on Yeats's every word, whereas I think Sarah's sort of said no I prefer London the way it was. It's sort of a little bit more. And there's one. I mean, her also Liz Lane's facial range is so wonderful. It's kind of bit of peak kind of.
And she does that doctor type acting that she does so well in.
Yeah. But there's a lovely. There's also I forgot to mention it was during this story, the making of this story, around about sort of autumn '73 when I first started school. It's quite ironic because it's set in a school.
Yeah.
So, but no.
Sarah Jane's a bit more mellow than she was in Time on the
Yeah,
Time Warrior.
No, she didn't say a word in Time Warrior. A time monster. She was really quiet. But no, Time Warrior. Bob Hope has a lot of fun with her feminist thing, and I think goes for it and gives her sort of a roller coaster of that kind of thing. And
she's still very independent in Invasion of the Dinosaurs, and will continue to be.
Yes, she's less. She's less. They don't lay it on with a trowel, but she's more believably developed, I think, in this story.
Well, I think we should probably move on.
Dick Barton himself, Noel Johnson, who last seen in Underwater Menace, is playing Grover. So it's quite a nice little nod to the past as well.
Well, we should move on to episode 3.
Pertwee. I'll just go and check.
So we've just finished part 3.
Yes.
In which Sarah gets to do lots of things by herself.
Yes. You can't imagine. You can imagine Katie Manning. I think you can do the odd thing with Katie Manning, like rushing off and doing the. Trying to rescue the professor or whatever. But with Sarah, there's definite kind of journalism agenda, and a kind of almost self-centered career thing. But in a wide-eyed way that's actually perfectly natural and nice. But I have to say that's probably my favourite cliffhanger from the season. Not the whole season, but from the story, because it's completely kind of. What they call the dog leg. And we saw Terence Wilton, who appears at the end of that episode, we saw in live theatre last year.
And I like the scene where Sarah visits the minister, and it's played very well.
Charmingly played by Noel Johnson.
Yeah,
very good sets as well.
And you believe that he, because often when somebody's about to be revealed to be a baddie or not entirely a goodie, they give it away by acting in a certain way, but he acts.
It's a shame. John Bennett's first rate, but he gives the game away just a little bit too much by smiling at the camera at the end of the scene. He's very good otherwise.
Well, I remember every time I watch that, I kind of feel sort of let down by the minister because Sarah trusts him and you trust him, and then it's almost quite a shock that when
he's Dick Barton, you bring with the character a certain sort of nuance, and one instinctively would trust anyone growing up with Dick Barton would instinctively entrust him. So, but no, he's a very good character.
And the Tyrannosaurus Rex, I like the close-up shots of the Tyrannosaurus. His face is very well done. I think
it's when they get the body to try and do something that it falls to bits a bit. Because as you say, the close-ups of it waking up are quite good.
We were saying that the close-up on the Tyrannosaurus Rex was as well. Was probably better done than something like the face of Bo 30 years later.
At least equally done. But also, as somebody in the discontinuity guide once said, the dinosaurs in this actually go rah, actually say raw, and they sound just like someone with a hangover as well.
Oh dear.
What else have we got? We got. It was a cracking episode.
Benton gets a nice moment.
Yes, with that wonderful rolling of the eyes, which
when Sarah
John Levine does, as if he's been told an awful joke.
Yeah.
But no, that actually was. I first saw Dinosaurs in 1989 at a convention, in the video room at a convention. I came in halfway through episode 2, and it was a story that instantly impressed me because I've not seen it before.
We're only halfway through, so.
It's only just begun.
So, episode 4 of Invasion of the Dinosaurs.
The plot thickens.
Yes.
As I say, I still think it's a quality story. You've got some very big ideas going on with the spaceship.
I couldn't remember who was in on it, who knew, but I'm still not sure who knows. Well, the two of them sort of were like worried that that Sarah was going to cause trouble, but do they know it's not even a spaceship?
Well, you shall see.
I can't remember that. I know it's not. I know they're not really on a spaceship, but I don't know who doesn't know, who knows that, if any of them.
If pushed, I would actually say Silurians was probably my favourite Malcolm Hulke story, but this would be my second favourite because it's got so many twists and turns and layers, and the recognisable sort of London setting is very well. I mean, Paddy Russell deserves full credit for getting London that deserted and that shabby.
Yeah, it does.
Maybe not that shabby, but
well, maybe it was naturally shabby, but it does look shabby.
But,
I wasn't sure about the pterodactyl. He looked.
No, he
didn't look as good as the one in episode 1.
No,
perhaps they'd run out of quality pterodactyls.
He was a stud. Well, yes, they'd all buggered up.
Yeah,
all the ones on film look great and quite frightening, but this was the emu one.
This was the emu one,
and the sound effect sounded like a woman running away from a spider.
But yes.
Also, an audio version of the end of the Benny Hill show.
The cliffhanger dinosaur looked like one of the better ones, though.
Yeah, not too bad. It was a bit arthritic in the leg.
Yes, it was a bit.
But lovely cliffhanger again. It's interesting. Pertwee. This is, of course, his last season, and with Tom's last season, he's looking emaciated, bored, fed up, can't be bothered to look at people. Pertwee, you can see there's an aura of sadness about him because he's just lost his best friend. Because Roger Delgado was killed earlier that year, but he's still
giving it his all.
He's still professional and very much on top. So even though Tom's my favourite Doctor by a whisker, I would say Pertwee comes across as more professional.
I prefer in the early seasons of Pertwee,
yes,
his hair's kind of hasn't properly gone grey. It's a bit browny in places. It's a little bit faffy around, But by this point, it's got proper,
It's
proper grey. It's.
But he must have gone grey very young because he's 2 years younger than Noel Johnson. When you see a scene with them together, he's probably lost a Grecian 2000, but no, a very enjoyable episode. It's a shame that this story doesn't register more on Martin Jarvis's radar because obviously Web Planet does because it was his first job, and he likes Vengeance on Varos, I know. With this one, I think he just did it for his kids, and yet I think Butler is probably the most satisfying role as a viewer to watch because he just looks so kind of like decent, and yet he's working for the bad guys. They do explain that in the book.
Yes.
But yeah, he's the Brigadier, bless him. Nick Courtney does bemusement so well, and good use of the unit guys with Benton and Yatesy. I love the Yatesy trait of it. I think it's a lovely twist. And Liz Sladen, what can I say? She's terrific, isn't she?
She'll move on to episode 5 and see whether I get some of my answers.
I'm so glad you've forgotten.
I know.
It makes it so much fun. Here we go.
So, episode 5.
Yes, indeed, yes. With a lovely moment with John Levine there, with Benton. Where there's a lovely moment with the Brigadier and a lovely moment with the Doctor where he lets him overpower him. And it's nice because the Venusian karate has been established by now, so the fact that he didn't actually need to kind of take him by surprise or overpower him because he'd just let him do it for the sake of
I really do feel for Sarah. Literally, every person she trusts who should be trustworthy isn't trustworthy at all.
Yeah, I mean, it's if it was Joe Grant, she'd just look like an idiot. But with Sarah, because she's actually working out large portions of the plot, which is quite nice, and on her own as well. She's doing a lot of work with the Doctor. In actual fact, with a lot of Time Warrior was her. Well, I mean, she's proactive in Time Warrior as well, but a lot of it is Holmes having fun with, the whole women's lib thing. Whereas in actual fact, it's interesting. We've just been watching the technical credit, the subtitles, and this is the first episode that was actually script edited by Robert Holmes, which is ironic because he's bookended with John Bennett, who's in this story, and his last story for Hinchcliffe, Had Talon's Wayne Chang, was also had John Bennett in it.
Sarah has the courage of her convictions and walks out.
Yes.
Out of the spaceship, which isn't the spaceship.
It does. I mean, the novelisation does say, "I just hope I'm not lying lifeless in space some minute from now." She's not in the book. She goes for it, but she's just hopes to God she's right.
There's some good sort of helicopter flying shots that I wonder, is that stock footage or is that done especially for the show?
It seems. I don't think, unlike the Sea Devils, which is sort of like Doctor Who and the stock footage invasion. I think it was actually specially shot because it matches the
location.
Yeah, I mean, as I say, yes, strictly speaking, it's Mac Holt doing some padding, but it's actually quite a nice sequence. And at this stage, obviously, things like Army and they're all well done because they've had a lot of practice. And Pertwee walks through the whole thing unarmed, which is another nice.
And we get a mix of good-looking dinosaurs. Hey, good-looking dinosaurs, and shoddy-looking dinosaurs.
Well, what's weird is, and the poor old pterodactyl comes off. Not pterodactyl.
Tyrannosaurus Rex.
Tyrannosaurus Rex comes out worst, whereas Stegosaurus and
there was one called an andong-a-ding-a-ding-a-ding-dong-dong thing. I don't think that's a real
that one that ends up in the underground later on.
Triceratops.
They're quite Triceratops. That's right.
But there was that one that outside Smithfield Market. That was one I didn't even recognise the name of. But that was
the one with the long neck.
Yeah.
I actually think what's weird is you've gone from film location work with good, the good film location work with crap dinosaurs. And now we've gone from good dinosaurs to crap background, which, I mean, considering the strengths, I mean, the story holds up very nicely indeed.
The show notes said that one of the dinosaurs was eaten by the National Theatre or something. I don't think the National Theatre is particularly. I don't know that you'd have known from that shot.
Well, no,
it just looked like the back alley down Coronation Street.
Just a horizon, yes, it just looked like a horizon shot. But nice baddie interaction. Peter Miles, of course, excellent, and there's a nice little crowd going there.
They had a go with doing the time thing, the
time warp,
the time warp, the smashing.
That's a nice little sequence, and a very gay look from Peter Martin Jarvis to Noel Johnson.
I think. He thought he'd thought all his Christmases would come at once.
Yes, but I love the fact with you. This is even more evidence in the next episode. I love the fact that despite finding Grover's scheme abhorrent, I get the feeling that Sarah's got a soft spot for the minister. He's not a typical Pertwee idiot when it comes to politicians. Most politicians are actually unlikable and bigoted and everything.
But she's going to come away thinking
Grover's a nice guy, but he's just mad and bad. It's just, it's
a really bad lesson. It's a really bad lesson for about men. You can't trust any of them.
I know, they're all bastards, darling. But no, little bit let down by the cliffhanger because we've gone from we just had 2 really good cliffhangers, and now we've gone back to dinosaur. Yeah. Didn't see that one coming, and it's particularly dodgy shot of the pterodactyl. The big one. T-Rex, yes.
Mark Bowden.
Like a bit like Mark Bowden.
He was 1973 wasn't too bad a year for T-Rex. It wasn't their biggest year, but episode. Is this story got a traditional? Hasn't got a 6 parts, but sometimes 6-parters have 2 or 4 broken into 2. I don't think.
I think the dogleg, the traditional 6-part dogleg, can be considered the spaceship. Yeah. I mean, I don't think you would have stretched the 6 episodes without the spaceship.
But that comes in a week.
It comes in halfway through.
Yeah, that's a bit unusual.
It's a dogleg halfway up the dog.
Yeah, that's a bit different. That's a bit different to the usual structure of 6 parts.
Well, I think it's only really, later on when the 6-parter became
like
the traditional 2-part dog leg either end.
Yeah.
Well, diverting a little bit here, I think it was actually quite clever of Seeds of Doom to actually get their dog leg out the way first, and then the main part of the story. Yeah. So that works quite nicely. Because I think
it works better than in Talons, where I kind of find the last 2 episodes.
Yes.
It's been run out of steam, and it's kind of like
yes.
You could almost have got it done in a 4-part, and then had them back. They had the same character, had the theatre duo back in the next season or something.
Oh yeah,
another story with them.
But I mean, Seeds is the most effective 6-part dog leg because you've got a really action-packed episode 2, whereas usually episode 2. Dum-de-dum-de-dum, can't show you too much now because it would give away the plot. Dum-de-dum-de-dum, where you've got Jeopardy and villains, and you that's a super episode 2. But no, it doesn't drag because there's a lot of intrigue going on, and something very big.
Yes. Well, we better get on to episode 6 and see what happens.
Let's see what happens.
So, well, I keep saying episode 6 is actually part 6.
Yes, when you get it right. Oh, that was the last episode of Invasion of the Dinosaurs. Next week, Nick gets chickenpox. I've got chickenpox. Death of the Daleks. I remember that. I remember it, but I see from my mum's diaries that I not only lost my grandfather, but got chickenpox. During Death of the Daleks.
2 tragedies in 1 week. This makes you sound like a very good young lady.
This is my granddad's last story. You didn't spot him, did you?
No, I didn't know.
Anyway, yes, very satisfying last episode. Lots of action, lots of kind of, are they going to get there in timey kind of things.
Special
lovely
effects.
little scene with Yakes, where the Doctor tries to persuade him otherwise, and there's a sort of sadness to that because they've been through many Pertwee adventures with him.
And when Benton gets to biff somebody on the nose.
Yes, that's a lovely moment. Yes, I'm very sorry. I remember that. I remember that getting a lot of laughs when it was shown at the video room in Honeycomb in 1989 when I first saw this story.
See, as much as he doesn't want to get biffed on the nose, he knows that the guy's doing a good job.
Yes.
In his heart of hearts, he knows that.
Lots of familiar faces. There's Colin Bell from Sea Devils. He was one of the submariners in Sea Devils. Good, very good monster. We had a good dinosaur in the. I forget what it's called, but it's in the underground. That was quite a nice shot. Till the Brigadier walks into it and you realise it's CSO. It's actually quite a good shot.
There's some nice dashing shots of Pertwee watching the dinosaurs on film.
Yes.
Well, no, he was on film. The dinosaurs weren't. The fact the dinosaurs fighting was particularly fun.
Yes, I just had to imagine if they had kind of done it in real time. I just had this mental picture of Paddy Russell playing with these 2 dinosaurs with the foreground, No, so excellent all-round story with some lots of layers. Lots of very good. And Dudley just
sounded like he was having fun all the way through, as he always does, which is another sort of link to some of the other stories we've been talking about. It was, yes, I did mention Dudley on that, didn't I? Yes. But yes, he really knows how to keep the new, and he's still with us. He's 95 now, but he's still with us. But yeah.
You said you needed to mention Warren.
Warren, yes, a big thank you to. I mean, he was always interested in unit, and I think he used to kind of salute me in a unit style when he would say goodbye to me. But a very, very big thank you to Warren Cummings, who bought me this when it came out on DVD in 2012, I think it was. Financially and morale-wise, I was feeling very low, and I happened to mention that I was looking forward to this. And bless him, he bought it for me. And I think I returned the favour by sending him a DVD. But it was so. I this DVD box set with this and Android Invasion. I owed Warren, and because he was so interested in Unit, it feels appropriate somehow. But no, so I'm very grateful to him. But we would have met up with him today, which would have been nice, because it's been about 12 years, I think. 12, maybe not. 12, 10 years, something like that. But yes, he was always interested in the sort of Pertwee years.
Well, thank you for reviewing this story.
It's been a pleasure. I mean, it's as I say, I don't remember it when I was a kid, but I'm glad I've rediscovered it. It's the sort of thing that would have intrigued me, I think, when I wanted it equal.
Yes. Yeah. Still, it's always an enjoyable one.
Yes, and you were born during it, weren't you?
Yes, I don't remember that either.
Yes, it looks like you were born sort of more sort of about episode 5-ish.
Yeah. And now, ironically, I am a dinosaur.
Thank you very much to Paul.
Yes, thank you, Paul.
And to Nick.
And Nick.
And Ali, who was there as well.
She was. You could hear her in the background a bit.
Yes.
Yes.
You wanted to say about Paul's attempt at a dinosaur name, which made us laugh,
yes,
didn't it?
I think we obviously just made that up. I think he was thinking it's John Pertwee describes it as an Apatosaurus. I would have known it at that time as I wasn't very old at that time, but when I was old enough to look at dinosaurs, because I love dinosaurs, as a Brontosaurus. But I think it's more commonly known now as an Apatosaurus.
Because there is the line, the Brontosaurus is large and placid and stupid.
Yeah. Well, it's Stegosaurus, isn't it?
No, that was the Brontosaurus.
Is it?
Yeah, it's in Robot
okay.
Part 1.
Oh, that's in Robot, yeah. Aimed at John Levine.
Yes.
Yes.
But you just wanted to say about Paddy Russell,
also, yes,
Dudley Simpson,
yes.
and Scott Fredericks as well now.
Yes. It's been a heavy toll this last week of John Pertwee, Tom Baker, guest stars, directors, and musical people. We will do a fuller tribute, because obviously this issue is running rather long now. We don't want to...
This issue is already 2 hours.
Yes, we don't want to make it too much longer. So in issue 18, which will be in January, we will do tribute to all of those people. Yeah. So that'll be a round-up to
Dudley, I certainly want to talk more about. Yeah. It's noticeable that we're going to mention a lot of stories that they worked on in the rest of this issue. Because what we're doing now is a chat with Warren on the sofa, where we're going to do a sort of season poll thing, aren't we? So we're going through the whole
of seasons.
John Pertwee, and then later on we'll do
Tom Baker
as well. And we'll just vote. We're going to vote for our favourite story,
just on the spur of the moment
for each season.
Yes, we try not to think about it too much.
Gut reaction thing, isn't it? And just to say what we like about each story we've chosen.
Yeah. And there will be some surprises in there.
Yes, I was surprised by some of the things.
Yeah, I was surprised by some of the things as well. Yes.
So we'll do that.
Yes.
And then Nick and Paul will return.
Yes. To talk about two Tom Baker stories.
Tom Baker stuff. Yeah. So yes. So see you all soon then.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hello.
Hello.
Warren is here.
Yes, he is.
We're on the sofa.
On the sofa.
Yes.
And we're going to go through seasons 7 to 18.
So John Pertwee and Tom Baker.
And pick our sort of top stories per season.
Per season, yeah.
And our sort of highlights of the story,
Of the
whether
story,
it be
yeah.
a scene or an actor or a line or
or
anything.
something. Yeah.
So, season 7, John Pertwee's first.
Yes.
Spearhead from Space, Doctor Who and the Silurians, The Ambassadors of Death, and Inferno. Best story, Lisa.
Inferno.
Okay.
Yeah.
Warren?
Silurians.
I'm going to vote for Silurians too. So, Lisa,
Yeah.
what's the best thing about Inferno?
I like all the alternative world stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting looking on a world that may have been,
Yes.
and characters that we know quite well by this point
Yeah.
as being completely different.
Well, Nick Courtney always used to say he was
Yeah, it's
very
Nick
fond of
Courtney.
it. Yeah.
Well, it's Nick because he gets the chance to do something other than just be the brigadier. He gets
Yeah.
to be evil, and he has an eye patch and a scar, and and he gets to be a coward. And yeah, it's a great story for him. It's probably one of his strongest, and that's nice as well. I like the brig, so
Okay.
and yeah, it's an interesting idea. It's an interesting idea.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I guess it's a kind of disaster movie, and I like disaster
Oh, yes,
movies.
of course. Yeah, I know you like
So
that sort of thing.
yeah.
Warren, Doctor Who and the Silurians.
Fulton Mackay.
Fulton Mackay.
Purely
Fulton
Fulton
Mackay.
Mackay.
Purely Fulton Mackay.
Okay.
The first time I ever saw Fulton Mackay was in Porridge. That's all I ever associated him until I the only other thing I'd ever seen him in was Porridge, and this was the next thing that wasn't Porridge. That sounded rubbish. Can I do that again, please?
No, carry on.
Damn you. Damn you. No, Fulton Mackay is brilliant in that. That's all I have to say, really.
I mean, he was up for the Doctor. Do
He
you
would
think?
have-
Yes.
Do you think that would have?
It would have been interesting.
Can you see season 12 with Fulton Mackay in the part or not?
Fulton Mackay was a perfectionist
Yeah.
when it came. He was very much like Leonard Rossiter. He was perfectionist to the umpteenth degree when it came to rehearsing for things, and I think he wouldn't have made it as spontaneous as John could.
Yeah. Tom, you mean? Because he was up for the part for season.
Oh, sorry,
season
my
12.
apologies. Yeah, Tom. Yeah.
Yeah.
But for this, you've got a lot of old hands on screen here, haven't you? You've got Nick, you got John, and you've got Fulton as a guest star, and he's just brilliant.
I mean, it's a shame he doesn't last longer in the story, actually. Because
Absolutely,
he sort of he's out about halfway through, isn't he? Which
Yeah.
is a shame. But
I mean, I do love Silurians as well. I love all the plague stuff in Silurians because it's a little bit of Survivors.
yeah, what I like about it is the range of the story.
Yeah, it does. It goes
think
a long way.
It's a story that really makes use of its seven parts. So it starts off, contained in the caves and the base, and then you eventually get all the plague scenes and stuff in London. So it's got a real feel of.
And Peter Miles's
Of
slow
the action,
breakdown to that scene where he jumps onto the desk, doesn't he?
But it's got a real feeling that the events have consequences.
Absolutely.
I think.
And I think most for what would be classed as in those days a children's program or family entertainment, that scene filmed at Marylebone Station, where people just fall to the ground, don't they?
Right, let's jump on ahead. Season 8. Terror of the Autons, The Mind of Evil, The Claws of Axos, Colony in Space, or The Demons. Warren.
All of them because they have Roger Delgado in.
Okay.
Roger Delgado is possibly the best thing that's happened to the Pertwee era next to John Pertwee.
All right.
He has such a presence, and to a certain extent he overshadows the Doctor a lot, and so much so that especially his theme music, isn't it? And I know that did miff John somewhat, didn't it?
Well, John was worried about it because there's that story about the Radio Times cover for Terror of the Autons.
Yeah.
John said people were coming up to him saying, "Oh, I see Roger Delgado's taken over as the Doctor."
Yeah.
That's because people are stupid.
Oh, well, yeah, that's true.
But when you watch Roger on the screen, if you look into his eyes, he's giving you that "you will obey me, you will obey me," and the hairs go up on the back of your neck.
We have got. Is it Rivals of Sherlock Holmes that
Yes.
Roger Delgado's in?
Yeah, he's in
It's
that, and he's
worth-
in a
it's
Sergeant Cork as well.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
And he's the Spanish ambassador to Francis Drake. Which
No,
we will
never.
get
He
round into
never
watching
would do
it.
parts like that, surely.
Yeah, at some point, but
And
yeah.
he is another established actor that will be known to the audience.
Yeah.
but that he oozes such darkness. But it's not the person he was, is it?
Yeah.
He was a pipe and slippers man, as they said.
Quite right, Tim. Lisa, best story out of those 5.
It's a toss-up between Mind of Evil and the Demons,
All right.
and I think I'm going to go for Mind of Evil, actually.
Yes!
Because it's a very adult story.
Yeah.
For this put in Doctor Who, to have a story set in the prison with all that implied violence and it's really nasty.
Yeah.
It's really nasty. And
considering
they're
all being killed by Fisher-Price robots.
Yeah.
But it's not William Marlowe.
Oh,
Brilliant. He's fantastic.
Yes, he's just really evil.
He is evil.
Yeah.
He's evil. But yeah,
It's a great story.
it is, and I think it's the Master's best. And as you say, it's a diversion from your normal Doctor Who fare, then, isn't
Yes.
it?
Yeah, because
Very
you've got the
dark.
stuff with the peace conference and
Yep.
stuff at the prison, and so yeah, it's Mind of Evil.
I'm going to vote for the Demons, but partially because I read the book first.
Yeah,
Because I remember when the book came out, I was quite scared of reading the book because of the cover, because it had the devil on the cover, and it's a fantastic book because it really gets into the minds of all the characters. So when I came to see the story on television, I had a lot of sort of backstory already that wasn't necessarily on screen. So that, I think that helped me. I know in the sort of 90s there was a sort of period when people in fandom seemed to be the Pertwee era seemed to be a bit out of favour, and I know everybody that worked on the Demons loved it, and people seemed to sort of go against the story a bit because of that. But I think I've been to the village, and growing up in the village atmosphere, I think that helps me enjoy that story. And it's just slightly strange. There's a strange atmosphere about it. The weird things like the signposts going round and things like that. So it's the show being a bit unusual. I think it's not falling into a format at that point. But I do think that book really does help me to see more than is necessarily on screen in that story. But
see, now you've said that, I think that's why I like the Mind of Evil, because I had the Mind of Evil and I think it's the Demons.
No, it's Axos.
In an omnibus.
I know it's upstairs.
And my mum used to go to
Doctor Who Classics.
Doctor Who Classics. Yeah, my mum used to go to a lot of hospital appointments.
Yeah.
And if I had to go, I would always take a book with me to read. And I remember reading Mind of Evil while we were waiting for the appointment to finish. Yeah. So, yeah, I guess that's probably why I like Mind of Evil, because I read the book.
Okay. Season 9, Day of the Daleks, Curse of Peladon, Sea Devils, Mutants, Time Monster. Lisa?
I'm going to go for Curse of Peladon, actually.
Curse of Peladon?
Curse of Peladon.
Why the Curse of Peladon?
Because I like David Troughton.
Right.
He's really good in it. He's quite sweet. He's romance with Joe. Alpha says, stop doing that. Woman's making puking signs. Alpha Centauri's quite interesting.
Alpha Centauri came back.
He did.
Yes.
Well, she did. It did. And it's nice the way it subverts the Ice Warriors.
Okay.
That they're not the villains.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Warren?
I'm waiting for the bullets at this point.
Oh, go on.
Shoot me down. I actually like the Mutants.
Ooh, good out.
It,
I like surprise answers to this.
It's trying to do a lot.
Yeah.
With what it's got, and
what it's got is Rick James.
Yeah.
Who I quite like, but can't act in that at all.
Okay, no, I'll go with that. I'll go with that. But there's some interesting things in that. Production values are stretched on that to a great deal, to the point of breaking. And I think that they made a damn good effort with what they had.
Yeah.
I do actually like the story.
Okay.
It because it's ex-colonial shadows of the past, isn't it?
Yeah, that's interesting.
And I do like that story. It's better than the Dalek voices and Dare the Daleks.
I'm going to say the Sea Devils. Because I like stories that have a lot of filming, which you get, all set in a sort of local area here. because it's all the Isle of Wight, Portsmouth, and I think there's a mystery about the story again, that the feeling that we don't know everything that's out there.
I don't think so. I think you just want to own a 2CV with no doors on it. No, I get where you're coming from.
Yeah, again, it's got an atmosphere to it, and anything set on the Isle of Wight is always a good excuse for me.
Also, the mystery of the deep, isn't it?
Yeah,
because the in some parts of the world, the sea is almost bottomless, isn't it?
I mean,
we don't know what's down there.
Yeah, but don't forget how much of this planet is actually made up of ocean.
Yeah,
and as you say, unexplored. So,
and the number of species that are being discovered each year.
Yes, but yeah, it's just that simple imagery of the sea devils coming out of the sea, even if the stuntmen are cursing.
Yeah,
because they're drowning. And I know Terence Dix doesn't like the string vests either.
I was about to go for the string vest.
I think
option
they're brilliant.
Yeah. Or the Bakewell tarts that they fire at people with.
It's a real strong image. Again, it's that picture from the Doctor Who monster book. There's a great close up of the sea devil, and some monsters you shoot in close up and they look dreadful, but these designs they really stand up to the camera lens getting in close.
Here's round the corner. The military base.
Yeah,
but I think I see where you're going with that.
Right, season 10.
Oh.
3 Doctors, Carnival of Monsters, Frontier in Space, Planet of the Daleks, The Green Death. Warren. This is quite hard, I think, this one.
This one is really hard, and I'm going to go with the gut instinct, because there's quite a few there that I like. But I am going to go with Frontier.
Frontier in Space, okay.
Because it's Doctor Who's Star Wars.
All right.
And I like that idea. It's a bit like the Mutants, but they have the model works fantastic on it.
Mm-hmm.
I like the Ogrons appear again, and I think the Ogrons are brilliant value. They really are. Sadly, it's Roger's last story, and he's not as evil as he was. And I quite like the scene where Joe says, "I'm not scared of you anymore.
Yeah.
I can beat you." And it's at that point, I think the Master's time's up anyway.
Yeah.
But it would have been nice to have seen the last confrontation between the Master and the Doctor as Pertwee's last story. But there are some damn good crackers there. We're looking at Carnival of Monsters is fantastic. But and Green Death. So I'm still going to stick with Frontier.
Okay.
I quite like it's a romp.
Yeah.
And that's what I like. It's a jolly romp through out in space. They've been earthbound for ages. They're out in space.
Lisa.
See, now, it's between two. It's between Carnival of Monsters and Planet of the Daleks.
All right.
And I think I'm actually going to go for Planet of the Daleks.
Ooh.
Because
You're surprising me here.
It's fun.
Okay.
I like it. I like all the stuff. I know it's rubbish.
Terry Nation's greatest hits.
Yeah, I know, and I like all the stuff with the hot air balloon when they're going really slowly up into up the air chute, and I just like it. I saw it the first time in the repeats in
93.
93.
Yeah.
And it was exciting. It was a Doctor Who story I'd never seen before, and it was on the television.
It is exciting, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is, because it's quite paced, isn't it?
Yeah. So I think maybe it's because I saw it on the television first rather than on. Was it out on video before then? I'm not sure.
I think it was on. No, I think it was the showing was before the. Yes, because Planet of the Daleks was quite late coming to VHS. Yes.
So I think that's the reason.
Yeah.
It's that feeling of it's Doctor Who I've not seen before and it's on the television.
Carnival of Monsters for me, because I just love how much fun Robert Holmes is having writing the script.
Yeah.
Some people say it's the point at which Robert Holmes' true writing voice emerges, that he's not afraid to have fun with it and have some humour and some satire.
He satirises the show very well as well, doesn't he? Yeah.
I mean, it's a novel idea for Doctor Who, and it's just bright and colourful. And again, it was repeated in 1981, And I'd read the book, and unlike the demons, the book hadn't really inspired me. But then seeing it on screen, it really sort of exceeded what I was hoping for.
It's a Russian doll of a story, isn't
Yeah,
it?
it's just so cleverly done.
Yeah,
it's
story within a story within a story.
It's a real pushing the boundaries of of what you can get away with in a script.
I did like the bit with the chickens, though.
All right.
Where John Pertwee tries to talk alien to the chickens, and Joe's like, they're just chickens.
Katie's very proud. She does the noises herself. Yeah. Right. John's last season then. Time Warrior, Invasion of the Dinosaurs, Death of the Daleks, The Monster of Peladon, Planet of the Spiders. Lisa.
Oh, gosh. I'm going to have to go for Time Warrior.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why?
Because it's historical, like historical stuff.
Yeah.
I like the Sontarans. Blood Axe's horse is showing off at the camera. It's tossing its head a lot and going, there's a camera there, look at me. And it's just a great story. It's a great story.
Right.
Robert Holmes is best.
I'm with you on that one all the way. Although my first memory of Who is the Brigadier and the Doctor driving underneath the dinosaur in Invasion of the Dinosaurs.
Mm-hmm.
I love Time Warrior. I can sit and watch Time Warrior for ages. It's and spot little bits that I've never spotted before, and I think it's great fun.
They did manage to get potatoes several centuries early, though.
I did like the bit where they say put an arrow into his gizzard. He said, "That's jolly unsporting, old chap," but I thought that's pure Pertwee, isn't it? But yes, Time War is great fun, and it's Bob Holmes again at his best. He's firing on all four cylinders now. He's on a roll, as you young people would say. Boom.
But I do like Invasion of the Dinosaurs as well, purely because I like dinosaurs.
All right.
And we got some dinosaur sweets when we were playing at Invasion of the Dinosaurs last night.
That's true.
We were doing fighting with dinosaur sweets.
I bet it was better footage than on Invasion of the Dinosaurs. Clack.
Yeah.
Clack. Do you remember the front page of the... Oh, you've got...
We've got Clack up there,
Clack
actually.
up there.
We've got the Chris Achilleos cover.
Yes.
Which
I agonised for ages over that.
Which we bought.
Yeah, we went to the...
I love the cover, though.
We went to the...
total lie to what the production was. But
we went to the Target Books exhibition, and we went to the shop, and we were looking at the posters, and they were quite expensive, so we could only really justify getting one. And I stood there for ages going, Loch Ness Monster, Invasion of the Dinosaurs, Loch Ness Monster, it's got to be Invasion of the Dinosaurs.
Oh, just one thing on Invasion of the Dinosaurs very briefly.
Yeah.
The Cockney a chap from the Middle Ages with the Cockney accent.
Oh, right,
I thought
okay.
Brilliant.
I'm going to say Planet of the Spiders. Now, I'll admit it sags in the middle, but I think that first episode is very strong, and the story becomes strong again halfway through episode 5. Because when the Doctor goes into the cave of the Great One for the first time, you can see the fear on his face. When the spider sort of possesses him and makes him twiddle around, and you can see him fighting against it. And then that final episode, the Doctor going to his doom basically, and he knows what's going to happen. So yeah, I know there's a load of time wasting in the middle. Although I quite like the chase sequence.
It's very silly because he goes through all that and then she just teleports him out.
But that first episode and that last episode, I think, more than make up for anything that sort of happens in the middle.
And it's the preconceived idea that they know they're going to their doom and their regeneration, because you had it with Hartnell going, this old body of mine is wearing a bit thin. Yeah. There's the bit where Troughton in the last episode, Jamie goes, and we can get away this way, they've turned the force field off. Yeah. And he's gone, he's questioning why they've turned the force field. Can we get away? And now you've got John here who knows he's going to his death because he has to face his fear.
And it's also the thing that you've got so many plot threads all coming together, storylines that have been running from a season ago or more. So you've got Joe sending the crystal, you've got Mike Yates, and all of that coming together in a very clever way that assumes that as a viewer you're not stupid, that you can actually remember stuff from some time ago. So that's I think putting a bit of faith in the audience
But
as
they're
well.
all happy associations that come to an end, aren't they?
And yes, you've also got quite a few sort of regular Pertwee era actors as well coming
Yes.
in as well. So
Yeah.
that is a nice sort of
Nice
everything's
spectacular
sort of tied
woman
up at
doing,
the
yeah.
end. It is a real sense of a whole era ending. But there we go.
At 6, Doctor Who, and for Leela, a dangerous journey.
Entertainment for Saturday evening on BBC One. At 6, Doctor Who.
That pathetic crustacean? Your leader?
Coming up next here on Channel 17, the Doctor Who movie, The Power of Kroll. And on Channel 23, the FBI story.
I've been asked to cover The Invisible Enemy and Power of Kroll, both of which I remember very well when I was a kid. But one of which I've actually reviewed on my tape magazine Rayface Shift in 1991, but a very long time ago, so I can come to it more mature. There was two stories I've been asked to review, and two stories very, very glad to. Invisible Enemy, I'd like to take you back to 1977, when I'm just a week off being 9, and exactly 40 years to go today, which is quite nice. The episode 4 of The Invisible Enemy had just gone out, and I must say I've never seen a story quite like it. To put it in context, I suppose at 8 I was a bit nervous of Doctor Who. I'd watched it during Pertwee, and in the second season with Philip Hinchcliffe, I've been a bit scared of it really with Planet of Evil, which kind of terrified me, and I'd sort of been very, very interested in the show, but keeping it at arm's length at the same time. So Invisible Enemy was a turning point, because it was a show that had that sort of classic in sort of horror content, but it was toned down quite in the way it was done. And so I was quite proud of myself at the end of the story that I watched the whole thing and not chickened or missed anything. But the first, I remember because I missed the first episode of the previous story, the last episode of the previous story, Horror Fang Rock, because we went to the cinema to see The Spy Who Loved Me. I think the first episode I remember being reasonably eerie and intriguing, but it was the second episode that really did it for me, because in the Radio Times was this picture of this robot dog with the Doctor and Leela. Now, if I was to see that today, I would probably kind of think, yes, okay. But to an 8-year-old or a 9-year-old, that was pretty exciting. And right, yes, this is because it was a complete change of direction for the show, and I liked all the stuff in the Bial Foundation. And the story, the fact that you had the Doctor in such a vulnerable position, and you'd have the makeup and everything, and you had this invisible enemy, that you couldn't quite hang a hook on where it was coming from. And the other thing I love about the invisible enemy is you've got the Doctor. This is very much my adult self talking. You've got the Doctor going into his own body and having an ethical discussion with the infection. Only in Doctor Who. But the Nucleus I've always found a remarkable monster. I used to have a moan about it, and I think it's an incredible design. And also, yes, mobility is not on its side, but it's an interesting, malevolent shape, and yes, it does look like a prawn, but it mentions prawns in the script. So I don't go with all this CGI thing that they've done. They've redone it, haven't they? In Doctor Who magazine, they had a redone version of it. I thought no, and that cliffhanger with it rising was excited my interest, and it's a story that captured my imagination in many levels, and that's very much Bob Baker and Dave Martin. They had that inventive pushing the limits, and I was able to tell Bob Baker when we met him the other day that it was one of my favourite stories and remains so. I do. You quite like it, don't you?
Yes. Hello, it's me, Paul. Yeah, I like it, but I think I almost, unless I'd read the book, which I possibly had, I hadn't seen it before I met you.
Mm-hmm.
So I sort of knew that it was revered by you. So I probably came to it with a sort of, oh, let's see.
Yeah.
But I think I would have liked it without having spoken to you before. But then sometimes it does. There are.
Yeah.
But there were other stories in that era I'm not so keen on. So I don't think you would have necessarily influenced me. I think it is. It's that little bit of. Well, I like a bit of cheese. It's quite.
I mean, the fact that it's actually criticised for being ambitious, and yet there are many other stories revered that actually are just as ludicrously ambitious. It's actually, I think there's probably a little bit more tolerance to it these days than there used to be. Some of the effects aren't brilliant, as some of the effects are. I mean, you've got the lightning things, which are very good. You do. I mean, it always amuses me that the guy who played Grandad Boswell in Bread plays one of the guard. The people taken over by the virus. And
I like the eyebrows.
The eyebrows, yes. And he gets shot in the leg by K9 because K9's beam can't get any, and he falls down dead, presumably a vital organ in his leg. And I just had this image of Hedges or whatever, sort of hopping around, and the rest of the story going, "I'll get you, K9," but on kneecapping it. But no,
there's Michael's in it, isn't he?
Michael's in it. It's splendid. It's his favourite story. I actually asked him what his favourite story was. I can't believe I was so fanboyish just to do that. But he was very proud of it, and he's proud of his performance. And
Michael Sheard, this is, of course.
Yes, and because he starts out as a good guy, and it's always. I mean, they managed to bring back Marius and everything, but I've always assumed that the reason why they don't sort of try and revive the other guys is they just don't have time. But it is a shame that Lowe and the others just get forgotten in the. Well, I think the idea was to actually introduce the antibodies and kill the virus so that it would fade away, but it all goes pear-shaped because Lowe smashes it to pieces.
I can imagine if I'd have been at school at the time, also that Willoughby has one of those sort of, how when you're at school you need those little hooks that when if you're playing Doctor Who in the playground or something.
Yes, you need
the whole contact has been made. It is a great little thing for you. You could imagine. Right. I was a bit too young to have been playing it, but in a way that not many other stories in that season have those little moments that you could bring into.
Absolutely, and there's the shrinking. There was a lot that captured my imagination in that story. That's why it was very much a story like none other. I mean, watching it for the whole season, it almost feels like it comes from a completely different series. There's stories that captured my imagination before that, like Pyramids of Mars, and it just felt on a completely more. On a different level, but amazingly sort of over the top. But it was kind of really.
I do see that season in two separate halves. The first three stories, and the second three stories, and I'm less keen on the second half of the season.
If I'm honest, I'm with you on that. I must admit, I've. Horror Fang Rock's a great little claustrophobic piece, and very well played. And Invisible Enemy is a great fun, complete. It's sort of having been on this small little lighthouse. Suddenly you're out there in space. It's 5000 AD. You're going into the Doctor's brain. It's an exciting story. I mean, the visuals, particularly when you first meet the nucleus, could have been a little bit better in the brain. And also, it's always interested me because the nucleus is in that rock, and you see its claw, and you see its because it's embedded in that. Now, the eye is here, and the claw is here, and it's quite an unwieldy beast. So it must have spent most of the story like that, as if it's very drunk, very tired, holding a pipe. No wonder trying to get out. But I love that cliffhanger. Even now, if I'm in a shower, I can't really.
Oh, it was almost like a case of life.
Yeah, I can't. Yeah.
Actually, thinking about it, the Hinchcliffe era is known for sort of how it's almost Doctor Who's versions of classic horror films or whatever. Actually, Invisible Enemy fits in with that tradition, even with a new producer, because it's a lot of it is based on sort of things that were been done in films. Doctor Who's version.
Yes. But the thing about Fantastic Voyage is it only borrows from. It isn't a straight kind of zhunk dunk dung. Not like I mean, I love Android's Tara of Death, but I'm well aware that it's a virtual rewrite of Prisoner of Zenda. But with this one, it's only really the third episode, which is Incredible Journey. That's the one with the animals. Fantastic Voyage. That's right. But yes, I just like the fact that it kept changing. You had a claustrophobic space story on the first episode, then you have a hospital drama in the second with cloning, and then you've got the Doctor's brain, which is something we've never dared do before, and then you've got an all action last episode. I must admit, because I was absolutely made up, but they repeated it the year after, in the summer of '78, and I got to the last episode where I knew the nucleus was going to be in there and doing. I kind of really, the fanboy in me wanted to preserve it in some way. And I knew that I couldn't take an adequate photograph on the telly, and it would have been in black and white at that point as well. So I said, I'm going to record it, because I was recording everything. I was getting really into recording then. And I said, I set it up. And in those days, I didn't have the same thing as I had during the Davison years with the Please Be Quiet, which I've got my dad. The recording doesn't exist anymore, sadly. But I recorded that last episode when it was repeated, and you got my dad coming out of the bathroom. You got my sister nattering about who Louis Jameson's engaged to or something like that, and you got, even though he was in the previous series, or the previous scene, you got my mum's going, "There's K9," in the sort of when they're in the TARDIS. And my mum and the last episode where he tries to shoot the guard and it doesn't work, and my mum goes, "His gun doesn't work." But I wish I'd had all that and me enthusing about the whole darn thing. I'm just enjoying it immensely. It was what my dear wife would call a thumb up the bum, and yes, I am prepared to ignore some of its faults. I mean, yes, the cross of the Bio Foundation is smashed to bits before the I think there's only one shot where it's actually intact, but they shot everything out of order, and the first opening shot, it's damaged by the stuff that later happens. I mean, Ian Scoones' model work is really nice indeed, and it's got a nice feel to a venture feel to the whole thing. Only Marius stands out as a character, but it's to do with action.
In a way, and if you still have other things to say, please continue. But to say, in a way, your two stories you're talking about have similarities in that they're both aiming quite big.
Oh yes, indeed,
and on a small budget. So
yes.
Power of Kroll equally has, really.
That actually, the interesting thing about that is, when The Invisible Enemy was given to. When Bob Baker and Dave Martin, it would seem that they were aiming high deliberately and pushing the show all the time, whereas Bob Holmes, the enormity of that idea was actually forced upon him. I think one comes willingly and the other doesn't. But no, to round off with Invisible Enemy, I have to say that summer of '78 with the repeat and I taped it, I started every morning with a buzz of excitement, because I had a good clique of friends at the time, but I would start the day with The Invisible Enemy, and that episode I used to play, and I played that. I know that off by heart, and it was probably the first time I sat up and took notice of Dudley Simpson as well. Dudley Simpson's music. But yeah, I mean, as I say, Marius as well appealed to me as a. I think don't know if I knew Frederick Jaeger before that, or he'd been in Planet of Evil, but I hadn't actually. I'm not sure I realised it was him. I remember his character very well, but I probably didn't realise it was him. So it was the first time I registered Frederick Jaeger on my radar. But K9, I was enthralled with K9, and it just upped the show for me. It was where I started really coming out from behind the sofa and really appreciating the show again. And I never missed an episode from that point to, I don't know. I think I didn't miss Curse of Fairy, but I think I was doing theatre at the time, so I kind of taped it all, so I didn't actually miss it as such. But no, Invisible Enemy still remains one of my favourites. It's got its faults, but I still love it to bits. And I'm still waiting for them to bring out a sort of figure of the nucleus, which isn't the pewter thing that looks like a humiliated Daxon dressed up, as it was once described beautifully. I hooted at that description. There was a little. It was a very poor when they brought out these little pewter figures, and it just looked like somebody had humiliated their Daxon hound by dressing it up in fancy clothes. And that's a brilliant description. But no, I would actually. I'm not into toys, but I would actually, if they brought out a nucleus figure, I would buy it. Or K9, bless his heart. We went to that convention recently, celebrating 40 years of him, and it was a pleasure to be there. And Bob Baker, sadly not Dave Martin, because he died about 10 years ago. But it was nice to be able to meet the man and say, yeah, I really like what you did. And it had a huge influence, very much so on the Magnet Editor, which was the science fiction series I started just a few weeks after. And a lot of stories were Invisible Enemy rip-ups, and I fully confess to that when the book comes out. But anyway, Power of Kroll. Now this is one story that doesn't seem to have any fans because
I don't know.
I mean, I like it immensely, but it doesn't.
I'm quite fond of Power of Kroll. It's in my top 3 of the season.
Yeah, I mean, with that season, you had quite a colourful range of stories. It was rich in characters and things like that. I think Power of Kroll was rather seen as a dullard, but I think it's extremely underrated in just about every department, because you've got. I think it's because you've gone straight from Tara to, which obviously with the colourful Ruritanian kind of figures, and then you've got the Moons of Delta Magna, and which is sort of like a marsh. The Swampies, bless them, they were. I don't see them as racist at all. I think they were probably less racist than Li Sen Chang in the Talons of Wang Chiang, which sort of most people suddenly Doctor Who's not racist because it's such a good story, If mind your language, it's a bit like, I'm not saying it's the way things were, but fans like it so much, that story so much, that they're prepared to kind of it's Talons, isn't it?
I watched that with a friend recently, and they were a bit gobsmacked. Who isn't a Doctor Who fan, who was a bit gobsmacked.
And I like John Bennett very much as an actor, but I'm not sure I like. And he plays it very well, but I'm not sure I like the it was I don't think by 1977 it was really necessary. But no, but anyway, I'm getting off the point. Robert Holmes stories, I'm a big fan of them, but Power of Kroll seems to get a mauling because it's not because of what it is, or because what it isn't. they always, they having seen Garen and Unstoff and all the colourful kind of characters, and you get the verbose kind of characters like in the Sunmakers, and because you've got 4 very functional guys in the refinery, they would. I mean, if Neil McCarthy as Thorne came onto the set and started eulogising in the same way that the Collector or Morgus later on did, it would look stupid, and you wouldn't believe in him as a working man. Whereas, it's I think that works nicely. There's some very nice touches as well, and there's anti-exploitation thing. But a lot of the ideas in Power of Kroll are reused in Caves of Androzani, and give it a good director, and suddenly the same ideas kind of, oh wow, it's a classic, it's the best story ever. But just stop to think Stotts is actually a descendant of Morgan, of Rome Dutt, who's the gun runner in Power of Kroll. And I have to say about the cast, because I think there's coming for a lot of criticism because Philip Maddock isn't playing the baddie. I think it's very refreshing Philip Maddock isn't playing the baddie for a change. He's great. He's marvellous in all the other things he's appeared in. But I actually like the fact that you've got this guy who, is working with the baddie, but he doesn't really like his way of doing things, but he doesn't make him sort of a moral character. He wants to get on with the work. He just finds Thorne irritating, and so it's as one of the Envision things. So there's a Fenner in every department, but I like the fact, and actually I think Philip Maddock's kind of is visibly phased by not playing the baddie because there was a mix up with his agent. And his frustration actually really works because the character's frustrated and suspicious and hostile and grumpy. And you've got Neil McCarthy, who does a really good job as Thorne. And it's the characters with Holmes that really shine. And even though you haven't got colourful kind of descriptions of things who are here, there and everywhere, you've got a lovely character touch at the very beginning where Thorne comes in, and even though he's prepared to wipe out the Swampies later on, he comes in and he's actually bothered to get a whole library of tapes for his colleague, and he's not too worried about money. So instantly, but at the same time, he dismisses a Swampy. So he instantly you've got light and darkness with that character, and I do like that touch. It just adds a bit of colour to the bone.
I mean, I'd say Pirate Planet, Stones of Blood and Power of Kroll have always been my favourite 3 because they're easier to watch, they're more immediate.
Yeah.
The other 3 are a little bit more, you pay a bit more attention, and and maybe when you first see them, depending on how old you are, that they don't necessarily jump out with here's the monsters and here's the, they are perhaps for the more discerning taste, or a bit harder to get into.
I was 10 when Kroll went out, and to be honest, it was by Christmas. I wasn't, as long as I wasn't too scared, I can't watch it. I was perfectly happy with it. I mean, the idea of Kroll lurking beneath the surface. I have to say that I missed most of the second episode. When the telly was on, it was ready, but in those days we had very crappy DER sets which we rented. We had terrible trouble with the set over Christmas, and I was most upset because here was me, the first Christmas ever with colour telly, and the telly was breaking down, and we saw Power of Kroll in fiddly little bits merged with the Bionic Man on the next channel, and I think we just got we just got the last couple of minutes or so to just it tuned in, and Hug's legs were going down the pipe. So yeah, I wasn't too amused by that. But I didn't know until 1988 when I finally saw the whole thing that you saw Kroll in episode 2. I thought Kroll was a reveal for the end of episode 3, but during the interference, Kroll had popped up, and But yeah,
you were saying how much you wanted to have a. When we talked about Invisible Enemy, you mentioned saying you'd like to have a nucleus toy.
Oh yes,
I'd like to have, especially when I was making my films in the 90s. I would like to have had one of the false Kroll that the priests were using, or whatever they were, to sort of pretend to be. And
that's right. That looked good, didn't it?
Yeah, that would have been good.
I wouldn't have minded having one of those. Sort of your play suit, you know.
Yeah.
Actually, that looks really good. Actually, the beginning of the first episode, and I love the idea that it's a false monster. Yeah. As I say, Kroll is supposed to be Holmes' most boring story. It isn't. Because I mean, for my money, probably the Crotons. I mean, Crotons isn't a bad story; it's just a dull story, and but I think it's got more Holmesian touches than even Spearhead, because you've got some lovely little Holmes touches. Because you've got the other thing is when at the time he always Holmes always nods quite nicely to contemporary little issues, and you've got. Of course, at the time you had the American Express advert. As go, the American Express, that'll do nicely. And you've got the bit where they're signing the seal with Rome Dutch of the gun running deal. And I said, well, put your mark on it. And he goes, the mark of Kroll is sacred to our feet. We go, oh, that will do very nicely. He just said that. Yeah, that's it. And the Rome Dutch character, actually, I've always been fascinated with Robert Holmes's rogues. The character he has a very interesting idea of morality in some of his characters, and there's always a rogue, and they're always colourful and entertaining. And Rome Dutch is undoubtedly Holmes's least celebrated and underrated rogue.
He invented glitz, didn't he?
Yes, I mean, marvellous glitz. But Rome Dutch is actually more than holds his own as a Holmes character, because he is devious, and when it falls to pieces, he's not very good at handling it. And you've got that bit where he has that exchange with Mary Tam when he's interrogator in the swamps, and there's a bit where because he's playing it Irish, he goes, "Oh, you didn't know that." And I've quite unconsciously over the years, since I've been, I suppose 30 years since I've had Kroll on some form or another of recording. I do, when people tell me facts, I find myself dipping into Rome Dutch, going, "Oh, I didn't know that." But also, what interests me more and more is the fact that with Holmes, you have acceptable rogues and unacceptable rogues, and there's a very, very, very thin line between them. I mean, you've got Rome Dutch who's ripping off the Swampies who want to kill people, and you've got Garin 4 stories earlier, who was ripping off the Graf in Decay, who wanted to kill people. And Holmes gives them very different... One gets a ship full of goodies, and the other gets eaten by a monster. So, it's interesting how his characters behave and how he chooses to sort of dispatch them.
It's not as bad a fate as poor Glitz, who gets...
Go off by Mel, yeah. That's a horrible death. But no, sorry, Bonnie. I've ever since Donald Noble came into Doctor Who, I've appreciated Bonnie more and more. But no, I had to say it's I love his characters, and Rome Dutch's no exception. You've got this wonderful thing where Holmes is obviously when his plans go wrong, and there's a looks like Thorne's going to attack them, and the Swampies want to use his guns, which are obviously rotten, and Rome Dutch kind of Holmes is having enormous fun kind of with this, trying to that's what I think we ought to hide out in the swamps. And as I say, the other thing is someone unkind reviewer once said that Glyn Owen looks like he's performing elsewhere. He isn't. I think he's on top form. I like him. He's a very good actor, sadly no longer with us, but he's got this wonderful, cocky kind of he's almost a leprechaun in one thing. We go to, I got a lot of money, fucking magnet. He's really kind of, but he's got that sort of perhaps more deadly streak that Garin didn't have, but it's just as hapless. And it's interesting to see him react with Tom Baker's Doctor as well. And you've got this wonderful thing where he puts his hand on menacingly on Mary Tam, as if now is he going to get violent or possibly even sexual. And going back to the dialogue as well, you've got wonderful stuff. There's a very, very perceptive line in the first episode where Philip Maddock as Fenner goes, "Would you let a band of similar savages stand in the way of progress?" And he goes, and Tom goes, "Progress is a very flexible word. It can mean just about anything you want it to mean," which is very true. And that's a good watchword for the whole series, because it tackles racism, which what everyone wants to do these days. And what is there not to like? Because there's a lot of anti-racist kind of message in it. Yes, this One Piece being completely green was a little bit, but I mean, as I say, they are aliens, so they've got that. But other plus night filming, very luxurious night filming. Not for this date, I think. Oh, was it? Somebody was mentioned. I think because I was preparing this particular comment I'm just about to come out with was very much aimed at Troby and Lisa, because they were mentioning about raffles. They were reviewing raffles, and they were saying that they felt the night for day for night filming that they did didn't work. Actually, yes. I mean, I don't complain about production values, but yeah, that's a bit of unfortunate when that happens, and they do it in Stones of Blood, which is rather unfortunate. However, in Kroll you get the real thing. You get some night filming, and it looks splendid. And I like that fake monster. That would be almost worth having a, and it would be quite neater, wouldn't it? Than having a great big tentacle. But I liked Kroll. I like the figurine of Kroll is good. It's convincing. I think what people didn't like was the horizon line. Yeah. The white line. It was a little bit too obvious. But the actual model itself is extremely good. It's just sometimes in perspective as well. It's 140 feet high, and it's actually Bob's by the. And it's exciting. Last episode, I understand.
Breaking out through the tube.
Oh, it's great. I mean, it's probably a little bit Quatermass, but I'm sorry Bob didn't like it actually, because it's among his least favourite stories. Going back to Neil McCarthy, there's two things about Neil McCarthy. One of which is, there's three things about Neil McCarthy. We lost him, unfortunately, to motor neurons disease in 1985. But they had when I was in the Doctor Who local group in 1986, somebody bought, I think it was Andrew Wink, bought or came into possession of Thorne's costume, complete with where he got stabbed, and he actually had that, and it was a bit stinky after all these years because the fake blood was on there. I remember it whiffing a bit. And the other thing was Troby had a dream about 1998, when we were sort of the Kroll videos were still out there, that there was this stall and there was Neil McCarthy in his Thorne costume selling these videos of Power of Kroll, and he was saying that because of course he was in Mind of Evil as well, and he said to Troby, Mind of Evil was a crap story, but Power of Kroll was great. According to a text I had from Lisa, he's forgotten all about that dream, but hopefully he'll remember it now. But yeah, I mean, and the other thing, well, this is just thinking off the top of my head, I remember when you and I sat down and watched The End of Time, which was David Tennant's last story, in the Christmas 2009, and I remember you turning to me at the end and saying, that was a load of rubbish, let's stick on Power of Kroll, which of course went out at Christmas. I always associate that story with Christmas because it went out then, and Pine Needles is the other thing I always associate Kroll with. I remember, we sat and watched Power of Kroll, and there's the continuity announcements on the DVD are rather good. Also, you've got the original studio recordings, so you've got Neil McCarthy there reacting with Philip Maddock, and if you would have the wrist they're running where they asked Maddock to do something. But no, So a good adventure story, and it came out a lot better than Norman Stewart's other story, Underworld. And Bob Holmes, even in his sort of reluctantly pushed on with a stick kind of thing, is delivering the goods. And he was asked to come up with the biggest monster Doctor Who has ever seen, which he did. And I don't think he was very keen on the task, but he made the best of it and actually made it the segment, which was good. Sorry for any spoilers. But what's interesting also is when he, apparently in the original script, the Doctor sort of just goes up to the monster and you're a segment. And whereas they obviously milk it a bit in the story. But no, I would actually say I prefer Kroll to Armageddon Factor. But no, it's got loads of them. You've got another word, the cast. Nice to see John Leeson on his hind legs. Philip Malek, always a pleasure. John Albinieri in the most extravagant wig he's ever been seen in. Carl Rigg, who later went on to be the first opponent of Tim Dalton's Bond. And Frank Jarvis, who was one of the gang in The Italian Job.
They could have done a sequel with Kroll versus the Crinoids. They could have
Quinoids.
Yeah, they could have had
tentacles at dawn. Yes, that would have been quite. But no, I remember at the time we used to walk down with that little side bit in Harlem where you walk down to the town path. That walk to the town path. We knew a gardener called Willie Pierce who used to grow all these great big vegetables. I don't know what they were, broccoli or something. And they used to rise up on a stalk and go boom, and they were going over because it was the winter. And I used to call them rotting Krolls. And the other thing is when I was sent the audio tape of Kroll in the summer of '87, it was by Linda King who taped it off her video, and she said she sent me a letter saying may you never find Kroll in your pot noodle.
Yeah.
So yeah, Kroll smashing adventure story, won't have a bad word said against it. So, yeah, and thank you for asking me to review it.
This is my aside. You don't have to use this bit, Toby, Lisa. I was just thinking. So this is my spin-off for a Kroll sort of spin-off series involving the Crinoid again. The Kroll adopts what he thinks is a Kroll baby, but it's actually a Crinoid, and then all the episodes are about how naughty the Crinoid is. Like it's like a sort of teenage sort of Kroll, sort of Grange Hill sort of crossover. Okay, I'll shut up.
Grange Kroll.
Call my agent if you're interested.
Thanks again to Paul and Nick.
Thank you, Nick and Paul.
Or Nick and Paul, because that one was more Nick, wasn't it?
More Nick, yes. I think we should just clarify that episode 1 of Mind of Evil was actually hand-coloured by Stuart Humphreys, and with help from Peter Crocker.
Yes.
Not Chromadot.
That wasn't a Chromadot recovery. No. It's the one episode for which you couldn't do it.
So, yes, that was hand-coloured, and an awful lot of work was put into it. So we thought we better mention that. So thank you, Stuart and Peter.
Yes. You just wanted to say Keith Barron as well.
Yes, Keith Barron has sadly passed away in the last week. So we will be doing a short piece on him in the next issue 17, which is out in December, and which is concerning Doctor Who in the 80s.
That's right. Okay.
Yes.
Is that it? I think that's it.
Yes,
it?
Just now for the last piece.
Oh yes. Now back to us with our Tom Baker season poll.
Yes.
I guess you could call it.
Yeah.
And then we'll do a sketch and then
we'll
get out of your hair. Because again, this one's even longer than...
it's longer than War and Peace, isn't it?
Yeah, this one is just massive.
Yes.
But yeah, so over to us, and then we'll see you soon then.
Yes, okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Anyway.
Oh, this is going to be difficult.
Right, season 12, Tom Baker is Doctor Who. Robot, The Ark in Space, The Sontaran Experiment, Genesis of the Daleks, Revenge of the Cybermen.
Please don't ask me first.
All right. Well, I'm going to have to say Genesis of the Daleks. It's a story that means a lot to me because I had it on it's been repeated a lot. I had the novelisation, and I had the audio cassette as well.
I had the LP, yeah.
Yeah, which is one of the reasons that Warren and I ended up doing Genesis of the Wogans, our infamous audio play. But it really is. It does justify the number of repeats it's had.
Absolutely.
I think you've got Davros, you've got Nida is.
And the Daleks are used sparingly,
yes,
aren't they?
the Daleks are in there enough, but you don't get bored of them. That's the thing. That the light is thrown onto Davros. It's a real. I hate to use the word classic, but it is a real brilliant performance by Michael Wisher, really establishing the character. And it's just dealing with big issues, which is what the show should do from time to time.
Doctor Who grows up at this point.
Yes. Okay, Lisa?
I'm going to say the Ark in Space.
Okay.
Because Tom's... He's got his character now. He spends a lot of robot trying to work out how he's going to play it and doing sort of comedy things. And he's finally got it in the Ark in Space. It was very exciting to see on video for the first time. I think I might have had the edited version, and then I got the 4-part version later on. And I really like Richardson Morgan. Richardson Morgan's character is great.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a beacon of what humanity should be like. He's selfless, and he gives his life for the good of humanity. And there's not enough people in the world like that.
Warren?
I'm going to have to go for Genesis of the Daleks, I'm afraid.
Okay. Don't be afraid.
I won't be afraid. I was at the time absolutely petrified. The first one that has put me behind the sofa.
Yeah. What was scary about it then?
It was dark.
Yeah.
And even as a 4-year-old, I could tell it was dark. It was a horrible story.
Mm-hmm.
It was claustrophobic. There wasn't going to be a happy ending.
No.
And it was convincing. And the characters are convincing. They weren't comic. I'm not saying all the characters in it. Robot was very light-hearted. I thought Kettlewell was a very light-hearted eccentric. There was none of that in Genesis. Genesis was... it also had harkenings from the Nazi era there, didn't it? With the uniforms and Nida.
And salutes.
And the salutes. There was nothing that I could look at and go... I'm watching a TV programme here, because it sucked you in, and it is very dark, and it scared the willies out of me.
Okay. Season 13. Terror of the Zygons, Planet of Evil, Pyramids of Mars, The Android Invasion, The Brain of Morbius, The Seeds of Doom.
Oh,
this one's
boy,
another
this
difficult
one's really
one.
difficult, isn't it?
Yeah. Lisa, do you want to go first?
Yeah, Pyramids of Mars.
Okay.
It's got Sheard in it.
It's got Sheard in it.
What more could you want? And I like all the stuff. I know it harkens back to Death to the Daleks, all the stuff, the puzzle solving and that. But I kind of like that. And I think I'd seen this before I'd seen Death to the Daleks. So that didn't really bother me. So yeah, I like Death to the Daleks. I do like Death to the Daleks. Pyramids of Mars. Yeah, it's a good story. Good historical.
I'm Seeds of Doom.
Mm-hmm.
However, I believe this is the season that Tom and Liz nailed their characters' relationship.
Yeah, they're on top form.
They are, absolutely.
Yeah.
In fact, it was sad. I was actually quite sad when Ian went in Terror of the Zygons. I quite like Terror of the Zygons.
Yeah.
I can forgive the monster at the end.
Yeah.
I actually like the premise of Terror of the Zygons. It's an invasion of the body snatchers. It's fun. But those 3 characters, for me, as far as I was concerned, were the Doctor Who's... he was my doctor. Those were the 2 assistants I will always remember growing up with. I always wanted to be Harry Sullivan.
Aww.
If we were playing Doctor in the playground, I am Harry Sullivan. I didn't want to be the Doctor, but Seeds of Doom, because that's another cracking one, and mainly because the house is down here in Dorset, and I recognised where they filmed it.
Well, I'm going to have to agree with you on Seeds of Doom. Again, pure atmosphere, utterly terrifying for a kid watching it. Even the trailer was scary. I remember seeing the trailer, and it's just that sort of feeling that the pod is going to open and what's going to come out of it. I remember being scared of the pod, and all it was doing was sitting there. And the bit where there's a couple of those fantastic model shots of the crinoids sitting on top of the house.
Yes,
and that was utterly terrifying. And I think it was the only Doctor Who monster I had dreams about afterwards. Didn't really ever have dreams about Daleks.
I had Cybermen coming up the front lane.
Yeah,
but never got into the house. They always were marched up the lane.
Yeah, but yeah, that shot, and even now looking at the photographs of it, it's a fantastic piece of work.
It's Douglas, isn't it?
Yeah, on a low budget. I just have to give an honourable mention though to the mind-bending scene in the brain of Morbius.
Oh, you love that scene.
I love that scene because of its original intention.
Yeah.
Not the intention that's been rewritten since, that it's Morbius.
It's not Morbius.
As a kid watching,
Morbius doesn't wear stupid
hats. As a kid watching, all those strange faces were doctors that I didn't know about.
Yeah.
And the idea that I didn't know everything about the Doctor's past was wonderful.
Wonderful doors it opens, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I remember sitting there thinking, is that Guy Fawkes was Doctor Who? Because one of the faces, it seemed to look like what I imagine Guy Fawkes was. And the idea that could that have been possible? But the idea that the Doctor had so much past that we didn't know about.
It's exciting.
Yes.
And it's no way it's Morbius. Morbius has not got enough sense of humour to
have
wear those hats.
Beards, hats and feathers. No. Right, season 14.
Excuse me.
The Mask of Mandragora, the Hand of Fear, the Deadly Assassin, the Face of Evil, the Robots of Death, the Talons of Weng Chiang. Another difficult one.
Yeah. For me, it's Robots of Death.
Okay.
And only just because I love Talons.
Mm-hmm.
I really do love Talons. But it's Robots of Death because it's an Agatha Christie murder mystery by any other name. And I love those kind of things.
I'm just looking at the ratings.
And it's got Russell Hunter in it.
There's an awful lot of ones with plus 10 millions.
Yeah.
Look at those.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. I'm going to say Talons of Weng Chiang. Again, I think Doctor Who's very good when it's mixing Victorian era with slightly odd science, which is what you've got colliding here.
Pseudo-Victorian science.
Yeah, but you've got 5,000. You've got the 51st century and the 19th, all influence the story. I do remember that Mr. Sin terrified me as well.
Yes.
And it's one of those occasions when I remember misunderstanding a line as a kid, because there's a line about it operated on a printed circuit. Now I know now that means that it's the electronics inside its head, basically. But as a kid, I imagined a printed circuit was something like a railway track laid out on the floor of their house, and it would move up and down this circuit as though there were lines laid out for it to walk up and down, and somehow it broke free from this circuit, which is why it was then dangerous, because it wasn't operating on the printed circuit anymore. Yeah, so it was one of those really weird things that you read the script back, and that thought still comes back to me. Very strange. But Warren,
can I just go for a two-pronged answer on this one?
You can try.
Emotional wise, Hand of Fear. I will put my hand up and say I cried at the end of Hand of Fear.
Mm-hmm.
I always do.
Yeah. Still have a tear in the eye now, because it reminds me of that particular, when you're that young. But it was a big wrench, emotional wrench, with what I saw as a cornerstone going.
Mm-hmm.
And as a child, I saw Tom more as a role model than I did any of the companions, but Liz was my companion. But for pure terror and entertainment, got to be Talons, isn't it?
Yeah.
That bloody great rat.
Okay. Season 15, Horror of Fang Rock, The Invisible Enemy, Image of the Fendal, The Sunmakers, Underworld, The Invasion of Time. Warren.
Horror of Fang Rock.
Okay.
Wow. Wow. I love it. Absolutely love the idea of being stranded on a rock. It's the old sort of 1950s B movie, isn't it?
Yeah.
The monster's outside. It's it, isn't it? The creature from the other world. It's outside there, and there's that lovely chilling line. Even as a child, it sent a shiver up my back when Tom goes, "I've made an awful mistake. I thought I'd locked it out, but I've locked it in here with us." Bang, titles.
Yes.
Wow. Mind blown. Loved it. It was the claustrophobic nature. I was a little bit disappointed that everybody died in it, except Tom and Leela. After reading, it wasn't quite shortly after, a couple of years afterwards, I read Why, just so they could put the Ballad of
Flannan
Isle at the end. But yeah, I love that story, and I still love it now. That had a big impact.
Lisa.
Right. I think I might have to go for Image of the Fendal.
Ooh, okay.
Because it's... I don't know, there's something about it. It's got a great cast. Though I do worry about Leaky the dog. Where did Leaky the dog go? Did Leaky the dog get out of the house before it blew up?
Yes.
Is he living with Grandma Tyler? Yes, we think he did.
He ran in and got under the table
under
with
the
her.
table, yeah. Yeah. I just love it. It's a really great story. It's got interesting villains, you know. Stahl is an interesting villain. And yeah, it's got a great cast.
You like Granny Tyler?
And I like Granny Tyler. And I saw her in an episode of Angels, and she was playing it almost exactly the same way, but without the accent.
Stahl was the only time I'd seen Stahl was in the Dad's Army film, doing a real cod German accent.
Oh, yes.
And I was waiting for him to do his cod German accent when I saw this.
My vote is also for Horror of Fang Rock. Unrelenting atmosphere is the thing. Just Reuben walking up the stairs.
I do like his evil grin, Colin Douglas. That is very scary.
With Dudley's music underscoring it. It's another of these stories where they've turned the lights down.
Yeah.
And again it harkens back to what I've said before. It's sort of turn of the century, and it's far enough back that superstition has still got a place in people's beliefs. You know, if that story was set 100 years later, people wouldn't believe any of the stories they were told. But you've got characters there that if they're told a story about something that happened here previously, it's always at the back of their heads, you know, is this happening again tonight? And again, immaculately shot, considering
it was done at Pebble Mill.
Yeah, considering the fact they're basically having to rewire the studios to make the thing work, and you've got the problems of that glass set,
yes,
and the CSO and everything like that,
and Tom Baker,
and Tom Baker being in a bit of a mood. But what ends up on screen is fantastic.
It is very good. Yeah, I mean, I do love Horror of Fang Rock as well.
It holds your attention for that 90 minutes, doesn't it?
In fact, after we went to Regenerations last year, because they had a panel about it, we immediately watched it the night we got back.
Yeah.
So.
Reboss Operation Pirate Planet, Stones of Blood, Androids of Tara, Power of Kroll, Armageddon Factor. Who wants to go on first on that one? Well, I'm going to say The Stones of Blood.
Okay.
Definitely a story of two halves. You've got all the Hammer horror stuff, but then you've got all the hyperspace stuff as well, which
it suddenly goes all sort of Douglas Adams,
which appeals to me in a different way. It's a very clever juggling of two different styles of story. I do remember. I think it's episode 2. Was shown on the 4th of November 1978, and that's we watched Doctor Who, and we went out and we had our fireworks party that night. So there's a lovely association there, and weirdly the sort of Megara are a bit like floating fireworks. They're sort of all sparkling, but I like a good stone circle anyway. But yeah, all the hyperspace stuff appeals from a science fiction point of view as well. So yeah, two things going on in that story, nicely balanced, I think. Lisa,
Androids of Tara for me.
Yeah.
Why is because it looks beautiful. got great costumes, and it made me go to Leeds Castle.
Leeds Castle, which is...
It's not in Leeds.
Well, it's...
In Kent.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Not the one up north.
Well, there isn't one up north.
Leeds.
Yeah.
That Leeds.
Not that Leeds. No, that's just the name of the castle. Yeah, I just love it. Peter Jeffrey, you cannot get a better villain than Peter Jeffrey.
Oh, he's pantomime.
But he's so clearly
pantomime.
enjoying himself.
Yeah.
He's having the best time.
I'll give you that.
And Paul Lavers is brilliant in it.
Hello, Paul Lavers.
Yes, hello, Paul Lavers. He retweets stuff of ours sometimes. And yeah, I just like it. It's a good story. Yeah.
Warren.
Sorry, I'm just having a look at the screen because my brain went blank there, which is nothing
That's
new.
Reboss, Pirate, Stars of Blood.
It has to be Pirate. Because
Pirate Planet, all right.
Yeah. Ooh, that's a look.
I'm very fond of Pirate Planet.
I'm fond of it. It's the one that sticks out in my mind. So I'm going from memories of seeing it at original transmission here. Yeah. But I like Pirate Planet because it was so much fun.
Yeah.
I've been scared a lot by Who, and now it was fun, and I chuckled most of my way through that. I just like the daftness of it all as well, and I loved the captain.
Yeah, the captain is
just fantastic.
We've got where is it? He's sitting behind you.
Yeah.
Bruce Purchase.
I thought Bruce was brilliant.
We've got a Bruce Purchase print, which is a picture of the pirate captain
and Tom
that Bruce wrote.
Yeah,
Bruce drew.
We did write on it.
He says, Lisa, best wishes, Bruce Purchase, 1998. Blimey.
Yeah, nearly 20 years ago.
No,
Great.
I love Bruce's portrayal. I think it's brilliant, spot on for that mechanical, maniacal figure that he was.
Season 17, Destiny of the Daleks, City of Death, The Creature from the Pit, Nightmare of Eden, The Horns of Nimon, and I'll include Sharda.
It's got to be City of Death, hasn't it?
Is this going to be unanimous?
Yeah,
I don't know.
It's just perfection.
Warren?
Perfection?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
This is 3 votes for City of Death, isn't it?
City of Death. The score, the music score has to be mentioned. It's divine, isn't it?
It's divine.
It's honey, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's honey being poured into your eyes.
And it's got a great cast. Julian Glover and Catherine Schell and Tom Chadbourne, David Graham, all giving it their best.
There's
Nobody's
drama,
giving.
There's comedy.
An OTT
there's
performance.
violence. There's the world exploding.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
It's just brilliant.
And there's a green-eyed monster, bug-eyed monster, isn't there?
With a nose.
With a nose. What more could you have?
Yeah. If nobody'd ever told you about that nose, would you have noticed it? Because
No,
once you
not
know,
at all.
once you've been told, you can't help spotting it. But
And there's David Graham.
yeah, David Graham.
He's fantastic.
He's
And the
lovely.
chicken.
And the chicken.
And the chicken.
Chicken gives a great performance.
I mean, it's interesting. This is written about the time that, Douglas Adams is trying to juggle an awful lot of stuff at once.
Too many things.
Hitch was going on at the time, isn't
Yeah,
it?
because he's sort of doing Hitchhiker as well at this time. So it's amazing that anything was finished.
Absolutely, yeah.
And
Well, didn't they just lock him in a room?
They
and
locked
go,
him in the room,
right.
washed him down with
whiskey, isn't
yes.
it? Yes. But
That's
yeah,
a lovely anecdote. That's how you create beautiful stuff, isn't it?
I think it does show that when sort of Douglas is writing as fast as he can, what comes out is just brilliant. Because I do love that second season of Hitchhiker on the Radio.
Yeah.
Where he was like writing it in one room and handing it to them to record in the next room. And there's so much stuff in there that's just written in a panic, but he's brilliant.
His contents of his head are amazing.
Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, this is Douglas.
It's comedy.
You feel it's the real Douglas to me.
Yeah. There's comedy, science fiction, but there's jeopardy.
Yeah.
There's so much hanging on a thread. There's the existence of Earth or the existence of the Jaggeroff.
I mean, the idea that the world is saved by a punch at the right point in time is brilliant. And that could, if that wasn't structured right, it's all to do with the structure of the story, and it is a joke, but it ties up all the plot as well, and that's very, very clever.
I've been to the Louvre, and I've stood there, And I turned to the girlfriend at the time and said, "It's a fake," and walked off, chuckling. As she watched it, this is a fake in felt pen written on the back of it. So I don't get it. Oh, well, there it is. I'm putting it out there.
Did you ever explain?
Never explained.
Oh, good.
It wasn't. No, not at all.
Right, and Tom's final season. The Leisure Hive, Meglos, Full Circle, State of Decay, Warrior's Gate, The Keeper of Track, and Legopolis. Lisa.
State of Decay.
State of Decay.
I had it on cassette.
You had it on cassette?
I had that where Tom was doing the voices as well, yes.
So before I even saw the story, I was quite familiar with it.
Yeah.
I was very fond of it. And it's full of atmosphere. I mean, it's not perhaps as... Hello, Martha, what's the matter?
Martha wants to go upstairs.
It's perhaps not as best shot as some things, but it is very nice. It's just... And I can almost remember whole passages of it. The passage where he talks about how the names change over, and he does the names, and you're like, oh right,
Sharky,
yeah, Sharky,
Sharky, yeah.
Okay, I'm going to say Warrior's Gate.
Oh,
it's all right, Martha running past. I'm going to say Warrior's Gate because again, it's the show trying something utterly original. You've never seen anything on the sort of screen in Doctor Who like Warrior's Gate. It's all the slow motion stuff when the Tharrell runs in, and you've got like feedback imaging, sort of echoes in time of him. You've got the idea of the gateway to another universe. You've got this bubble universe slowly shrinking because of the gravity of the ship. It's just bonkers ideas being thrown around. But I would have been 12 when this is shown, and it really sort of appealed to my imagination that I didn't feel I'd ever seen anything like this. It's one of those stories you have to watch more than once, I think, to get a full appreciation of it. But again, that's treating the audience, with a bit of respect.
Yeah.
I didn't see it again for years afterwards, but it was remarkable how much of that imagery stuck with me. Not so much the plot, but just the image of the gateway in the sort of blank space, the black and white photograph stuff with Tom walking through it in colour. And it was just very, very strange stuff, and the thought that Doctor Who could still surprise me, like that was remarkable. Warren,
I'm going to be unfortunately very bland and go with Lisa, because Lisa just explained extremely well the way I think about State of Decay. I heard it first on the audio. And I didn't know what to expect, and I have only recently seen it.
All right.
In fact, I have not seen Meglos since transmission.
Oh, all right.
So there's big holes in my head regarding Meglos. I have watched Warrior's Gate in the last year. I get where you're coming from.
Mm-hmm.
I've watched bits of Kipper. We've all seen Logopolis. But because of exactly the same reasons as yourself, I had the audio cassette.
Yeah.
It's possibly one of the first audio cassettes of Who I got.
Yeah.
And that's why
I never had it.
No?
I was aware that it existed.
It's fun, isn't it?
I don't think I've ever heard it.
Because Tom's doing all the voices, isn't he?
Not especially well, I have to say.
I like the old man voice that he did.
Yeah.
But,
it's the voice he uses from Solon in the Brain and Morbius one.
Okay.
And we're going, Tom, that's wrong, he's Welsh and Philip Maddock.
But no, I like it. That's the one I've seen most of recently out of that. And I'll go with the memory as well.
Okay, well, thank you for that, everyone. That's you've given me some surprises there. I thought I guessed some of what you were going to say, but I'm pleased that you surprised me as well. So there we go. That's the 70s and a bit of the 80s.
Yeah,
absolutely.
There we go. Thank you then.
Bye.
Bye. Hello. I'm in my living room and I've been captured by some cosplayers from Gallifrey Base and they think they've got the upper hand, but never mind, that's another sketch. Now, a little while ago I happened to be down the pub and I was having a discussion with a friend of mine who said that on the internet you have some successful podcasts, and he started to get a little bit competitive about certain shows that are either long-running or pedantic, and naturally he quoted the Shy Life podcast, which he said was very prolific, and he quoted among the pedantic ones around the archives. Well, of course, I didn't want to put him down, but I just had to talk about some of the tape scenes I've listened to over the years. I mean, I remember in the 80s, do you remember Sonic Waves? Sonic Waves wasn't very long-running, really. I think it only ran to 6 issues, but it was extremely entertaining. It was an audio scene, that means it was on tape, and I'll tell you how entertaining it was. Several articles by Matthew Sweet it had in a northern accent. When he wanted to record an article, he used to do it on a windy hill, apparently, as there was often a lot of noise in the background. That was Sonic Waves. Then there was the SFOW Express. Do you remember the SFOW Express? Troby was on that. Tall as a Douglas Camfield and 3 times his circumference. That tape scene, the SFOW Express, had a play that used clips from Troby's audio collection just to pad it out. It had this play with clips from the Doctor Who sound effects album and Kenny Everett and the Wurzels and things like that, and Bugsy Malone, about how Michael Grade was a deadly enemy to man. Now that was a play. Quite difficult to listen to, but somehow I managed it with a bit of help from Warren. What's that you say? You don't believe me? Well, you just look in our cupboard under the stairs. Ah! 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 Bye-bye. That was episode 16 of Round the Archives, starring Paul Chandler and Nick Goodman, with Lisa Parker, Andrew Trowbridge and Warren Cummings.
Thanks also to Ali Goodman.
On the musical side, you heard Dan Tate and Paul Chandler.
The scripts were by Malcolm Hulk, Bob Baker and Dave Martin, and Robert Holmes.
And the producers were Barry Letts and Graham Williams. Hello, hello, hello.
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 Warren is here on the sofa.
Yes.
And what's funny about that? And we are going to go through... What is funny?
Sorry, carry on.
I think we better start that again.
Sorry, I don't know.
Warren is here again.
Hello.
On the sofa.
Oh, the sofa.
Yeah, so far so good.
Oh.
Yes. We are going to go through John Thomas. John Thomas. No, that's rude.